Good morning to the young and the young at heart. My topic today, as you see, is choices. Do you have choices in your life? Well, of course you do. You make choices every day, like what to wear, and bigger choices like what friends you choose, and later even who you choose to marry. Of course, all of us have choices within limits, within certain boundaries. For example, we humans cannot choose to be frogs and I cannot choose to be male, and if you are male, you cannot choose to be female. The key, of course, is to make wise choices within these limits. There's some really good advice in Proverbs about making wise choices. It says, "It is dangerous to have enthusiasm without knowledge, and the one who acts hastily makes poor choices." So make sure you have true knowledge and don't make choices too quickly. Think about it first. And of course, choices do have consequences. That would be good and bad consequences. Some people say that we only think we're making choices in our lives, but really everything was pre planned ahead of time by God. Predestined, they call it. But what does God say about that? God says, "Look, I have set before you life and prosperity on the one hand, and death and disaster on the other hand." Notice that there are only ultimately two choices, life or death, and that is according to God. That really means life or death. A lot of people in churches think that the two choices are two different types of life in heaven or life in hell, being tortured forever and ever. But that's not what the Bible says. Let's read on. "So choose life," God says, "in order that you may live, by loving the Lord your God, by obeying his voice, and by holding fast to him." It sounds like the Shema to me. Remember, listen, Israel, the Lord your God is one Lord. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all yourself, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Let's read the rest of the verse as well. "Choose life so that you may live, by loving the Lord your God, by obeying his voice, and by holding fast to him, that you may live in the land that the Lord promised to give to your ancestors, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Now, was that land, in fact, the whole earth, promised only to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the people of Israel? No, it's also promised to us, who are the children of Abraham, if we believe what Abraham believed and also choose to obey. Now, what did Jesus say about choices and making choices? Well, Jesus, of course, was an excellent teacher. Sometimes he told parables, which are stories that make a point. Sometimes he asked questions to make people think, because thinking is always a good thing. In this situation, Jesus did both. He asked questions and he told a parable. So he started with a question. Now think about this. Jesus is asking you. Jesus said, "What do you think about this?" "There was a man who had two sons. He went to the first son and he said, 'Son, go to work today in the vineyard.' The son answered, 'I will not.' But afterwards he was sorry and he changed his mind and he went. The father went to the second son and said the same thing. He replied, 'I will go.' But he did not. So, which of the two sons did what his father wanted?" Jesus asked. I ask you the same question. What do you say? Which of the two sons did what his father wanted? In other words, which son made the right choice and obeyed his father? Was it the first one, the one who said, "I won't go," but then he changed his mind because he was sorry and he did go? Or was it the second one who said, "I will go," but he never went? Well, of course, it was the first one. And the crowd knew that too. Jesus' audience, they said that. It was the first one who said he wouldn't go, but he changed his mind and he went. Now, in this case, Jesus was probably making a point about the Jewish people and Gentile people. Gentiles would be all people who are not Jews. The Jews would be like the son who said that they would obey God, their father, but they didn't actually obey. The Gentiles would be like the son who said he wouldn't obey, but then he was sorry and he changed his mind and he made the right choice to obey. I think this story, this parable, applies to us today as well. Which son do we want to be like? Imagine if there was a third son in Jesus' story. This one would make the right choice from the beginning. He would say, I will obey, and he would actually go and obey. He would be like Abraham. When God said to Abraham, Go and move to this promised land, and later I will give it to you and your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, etc., etc., Abraham said, I will do it. And he did. But of course, he hasn't got that land yet or the whole earth because he died and is in the grave. And we are promised that we will get the earth along with him. So let's be like Abraham and obey what God says, even from the beginning. What does that obedience look like for you at your stage in life? Obey your parents and grow in wisdom so that you make wise choices. As it says in Ephesians 6:1, obey your parents in the Lord because this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise. What is the promise? So that it may go well for you and you may live long on the earth. In fact, that would be live forever on the earth in the kingdom when Jesus comes back.